Welcome to One on One. I'm Phil Tilghman, your host, and today, in our effort to introduce voters to the various candidates running for election this November the 4th, we welcome into the studio Bill Tilghman, who is a candidate for the 1st Congressional District. Welcome, cousin.
Thank you very much. We still are trying to figure out what kind of cousin we are, but we must be somewhere of a cousin.
Somewhere
along the line.
Now, Bill, you are from Centerville or Chestertown. Where do you tell people you're from?
I am from Centerville. We live on a farm in Centerville in a farmhouse that we restored, my wife and I did several years ago, and that's where we live. And my family's been on the Eastern Shore. Our family, has been on the Eastern Shore for many years. So as my mother used to say to all of us when we were kids, we have a little brackish water in the veins. So yes, it's all about the Eastern Shore and the 1st District.
Yeah. Well, kind of help us understand. The 1st District is more than just the Eastern Shore. What else?
Yes.
What other parts of the state does it take?
As some of your viewers may know, the 1st District has been changed around quite a bit in the last several years. It was redistricted in 2010. So what it includes now are the 9 counties on the Eastern Shore, and I count, let's say, Cecil County as one of those 9. I'm not sure they want to be thought of exclusively as on the Eastern Shore, but that's the way I think
That's a raging question.
That's a question, yeah. And then parts of 3 counties on the Western Shore, Harford County, quite a big piece of Harford County, a sliver of Baltimore County, and then another sliver of Carroll County.
Oh, Carroll County.
It's 12 counties, and it's quite different from what it was 4 or 5 years ago, where it included quite a bit of territory in and around Annapolis, but that's gone.
That's gone.
Right. So,
Well, Carroll County, I think of Carroll County as almost Western Maryland, but if you started out in Carroll County and wanted to drive to the extent of your district
to Ocean City,
yeah,
we're working on a helicopter lease.
Yeah.
We wish we could. It's a pretty difficult district to cover, and I was told just the other day that actually it's the largest district east of the Mississippi, and I believe it. Now there's some congressional districts like North Dakota. The whole state is a congressional district.
Yeah.
But excluding those, it's the biggest east of the Mississippi.
Wow.
So it requires a different approach than you would take if you were in a smaller, more compact district.
Right.
It's very spread out, and you can't be everywhere every day, so you have to kind of pick and choose the events you go to. But it's a standard district, 700 and approximately 50,000 voters or inhabitants in the district.
Yeah. Well, we have some things in common, I guess, if you check the demographics of 1st Congressional District. What are some of the things that we have in common? The Chesapeake Bay is one.
The Chesapeake Bay is, I always make sure to ask what are the issues on the Western Shore to make sure I'm aware of those. Obviously, it's easy living on the Eastern Shore. The issues on this side are more familiar to me, but I'm learning about the Western Shore. They're very interested in the Bay.
Are they?
They are very interested in the Bay, and I think it's a matter of pride for Marylanders as a whole that we have a lovely bay. So that's an issue that is very important. They have the same interest in jobs the way we do here. So those are probably the 2 most important issues on the Western Shore and on the Eastern Shore.
Mm-hmm.
Just one more sentence. What is a fact that is very important in understanding the 1st District is that as you get further away from the urban centers, Baltimore, Washington, as you get further away from the urban centers and come around Cecil County on the north and come down towards the lower shore, the problem of unemployment gets worse. And it's just a matter of geography. On the Western Shore, like Carroll County has an unemployment rate which is pretty much equivalent to the Maryland rate, which is a very good rate. I think we're right on the national average. And as you go around and go further south, the unemployment rate rises. And when you reach the lower shore, the 4 counties in the lower shore, it's around average 10%, but it's higher in certain areas.
Yeah.
So probably, well, the issue of jobs is the most important one that I get asked about. And as you go further, as I'm saying, as you go further away from the urban centers, the question gets tougher.
Yeah. Well, give us a little bit of hint about your background.
Yeah, thank you. I grew up with 1 foot on the Eastern Shore and 1 foot in Massachusetts. My father found a job in Massachusetts when he left college and spent his life there. So we had a foot up there and a foot down here. And I went to college and then law school in New York City, went to NYU Law School, and started out working on Wall Street, but it didn't interest me. Working as an attorney on Wall Street didn't interest me at all. So I ended up going in-house with an oil field service company, and was with them for about 15 years, during which time I lived abroad for a good part of that. So I've learned something about the oil business and the oil service business. Then I came back, lived in Atlanta for a number of years, and owned my own company in Atlanta, a small company, and then eventually returned to the Washington area and finished up my sort of conventional career working with Marriott Corporation, the hotel folks, as counsel for one of their companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was ready to retire. I was ready to, as I make a joke, but it's kind of half true, mowing the lawn was going to be the high point of my day. But I didn't retire because I just got very, very worried, upset, angry, I don't know what the word is, all those words, about the situation in Washington and our inability to grapple with the big problems. And we all know that. I'm just one of 330 million other Americans that feel that way. We're all frustrated, as can be, about that. And what can we do about it? I had been in the private sector most of my life and hadn't really contributed to civic life. Just seemed like the moment for me to change that and do something about it. So that's how I got from my background basically in the private sector to running for office. Pretty much that simple.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that is interesting, and we all do share the frustration about the inability of Congress and Washington in general, the term Washington, to just move forward.
Right.
Solve the problems and move forward and come to some sort of a consensus. It's difficult to do. It really is.
Our campaign, my campaign, is based around the little tagline, best of both parties. That's our sort of the short version of what my campaign is all about. The best of both parties is sort of an expression of what you just said, Phil. We need to get together. We need to get together and work on these problems. Some of them are pretty important and could really bite us badly if we don't pay attention to them. So, best of both parties is to dig down to a deeper level of the really rock bed issues that we as Americans share in common. Because I think if you go down deep enough, you hit these issues, these values, let's call them, that we all share, no matter what party we're in. So my idea is you stress those values and you work back from there, and you say to the other side, look at all the things that we have in common. Look at look at the fact that we're both sides of the aisle are totally dismayed by this situation. What in the heck can we do right now, today, to make a little difference? My theory, not to go on too long, but my theory is, let's make small increments of change. Let's try to do some of the preliminary things for some of these big issues. See if we can work up a little bit of trust with each other between all the sides. Then we might be able to go after the big things.
Yeah. Well, that sounds reasonable to me. In the Congress, the committee system is where a lot of the work
Right.
is done. What committees would you hope to serve on with your background?
I would be very interested to do anything to do with finance. I think that the reform of our financial system is very much a work in process. I'm not convinced that we've done enough so that we really have made it unlikely that we're going to ever have a similar meltdown that we had 4 or 5 years ago. So that's a big interest to me. I would be interested in anything international. Having lived abroad, I've traveled in the oil business all around the world, and learned a little bit about what you need to do to meet people from very different backgrounds. So I'd be interested in that. I suppose that as the newest member of Congress, you probably get told what committee you're going to be on.
Yeah, more than likely.
More than likely.
Yeah.
But those are the two areas I'd be very interested in. The issue of taxation and our tax system, that's a very big interest to me. Again, it's another issue that 300 million Americans all agree on. There's something that we can do better. We can have a better, clearer, easier to use tax system than the one we have. So I would be very, very pleased to have a chance to contribute to that process also.
Mm-hmm. Well, that brings to mind recently Warren Buffett gets quoted.
I think I know what you're going to say.
Quite often about his tax structure, and the lady that works for him, and she's in a bit different tax bracket than he is, a
Right.
higher tax bracket.
Right.
So there's probably some opportunities there to clean that
Yes.
up, I guess.
Kudos to Warren Buffett. How about that?
Yeah.
He made a point of doing this. Nobody forced him to do this.
Yeah.
And I guess he's paying 15, 16% tax on mostly capital gains, as we all know, and his secretary or assistant is paying 21, 22% because it's earned income. And well, that's just a good example of something that's just crazy.
Yeah.
And so I think the issue of the so-called the fact that these managers of hedge funds are able to treat their income as capital gains just is a good example. It's just crazy, and that's the reason why Warren Buffett has a 16-17% effective tax rate. Yeah, so the tax code needs a lot of work. There's going to be plenty of pain for everyone when we do this, because the tax code, in order to clean it up, we're going to have to look at a lot of deductions that we're all used to taking, the mortgage deduction, the charitable deduction. Some of the big companies are going to have to look at the possibility that they may lose some of their deductions, call them tax expenditures. There's a lot of pain that everybody's going to have to be willing to take, and it's going to take a big, huge consensus in Washington that doesn't exist today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to spread pain around takes a very significant consensus. So that's out there as just a major thing we need to do.
Yeah. Well, the Congress was able to pass health care reform.
Yes.
Somehow, by I think 2 votes or something like that. But what, and your opponent, our
Yes.
congressman is a physician, and I think has voted to rescind almost every bit of the Health Care Act 40 some times.
Yes.
Where do you stand on that?
Yes, I think you have to keep alert because that number of times keeps growing.
Yeah.
But I believe it's now in the 50s.
Really?
It's in the 50s, and no big, huge reform like that, as big as it is and as complex as it is perfect. It's not perfect. We know that, but there's a ton of stuff in there that is headed in the right direction. So I cannot understand my opponent feeling that there's nothing in there that he can agree with or even start to agree with, that the whole thing has to go. That just seems crazy. Everybody wants a better system, a better healthcare delivery system, and everybody understands that it's a colossal subject and that it's going to take time to work through it. So my view is I'm very pleased that it passed. It's too bad that we didn't get a single Republican vote. That's really too bad. That goes back to my best of parties thing, best of both parties. But there's plenty of stuff that needs to be done, needs to continue to be done to make it better. Just give an example. The whole issue of having access to pricing, so that when you go in for a procedure, you know how much it costs. And I'll just tell a quick little story. We went in the other day. My wife had a little procedure that needed to be done, which is kind of a repetitive thing. You do it, and then you see what happens, and then you do it a little more. And we asked the doctor's office how much it was going to cost, and basically they said, well, we can't tell you, but don't worry, Medicare will pay for it. Yes, Medicare will pay for it, but that's not the point. The point is, what does it cost? Just because Medicare is paying for it isn't a reason for our not knowing about it. I'm on Medicare, but it would be the health care provider for anybody. What's the price?
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't something we need to do for that price.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, but tell me. So that's a good example.
Yeah. It is.
So go ahead.
How do you think the Tea Party is going to do in this upcoming election?
Very good question. We did a poll in April, May, of the district, the whole district, likely voters, both parties. And there were a lot of interesting things that came out of this poll. And one thing is that the percents of voters who identify with the parties. And here's what came out. 44% of the district is Republican. 40% is Democrat. And guess what? There's a 16% there, and they're independents. And that number has gone way up since in the last several years, that number of independents. So what that is saying, and by the way, that's something that my polling people are telling me, they're seeing that all over the country, that same jump in independence. People are basically saying, I'm out of here. I don't get it, what these two parties are doing. Nothing seems to be right. I'm out of here. I'm an independent. So I feel the mood is one of skepticism, and I feel that is the proper, that's the correct attitude to take, skepticism. And so I don't think people are going to vote in lockstep with either party the way they have maybe in the past. We feel that our race looks very winnable because of that.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
So you're hoping that you're, what did you say, the best of both parties, I think was
The
your
best
slogan?
yeah.
Best of both. You're banking on the fact that some Republicans will vote for you
Yes.
as opposed to just vote party lines.
Absolutely. No matter how we slice it, in order to win, we will need to have Republican votes, moderate Republicans. And I'm encouraged about that. I spend, sadly, this is part of the process, I spend a lot of time on the phone. And calling mostly cold calls. So you don't know who you're going to talk to and what party they're a member of. But we're hearing very frequently that it's the same thing. People are tired of the fact that nothing happens in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it isn't just Democrats, it isn't just Republicans, it's everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to have 3, 4, 5% Republican vote to win, and I'm feeling pretty good about it.
Good, good.
Feeling pretty good about it.
Well, people, I guess, will ask you. We've got Andy Harris on one side, we got Bill Tilghman on the other. What's the difference? In your, what do you tell people when they ask you that?
Right. The biggest difference is my very strong feeling that we need to work together, and I will support any good idea that makes our country stronger, no matter where it comes from. And I don't need to reject an idea because it came from the other side of the aisle. I just don't. And I think that, again, 350 million other Americans, not 350, but 300 million other Americans feel that way. So I'm reaching out for the best idea. I'm not a politician. I am not a lifelong player of the political game. I have nothing to gain in Washington. I don't need another career. I've had my career. What we need is we need to work together. And I do not think, trying to be fair to Dr. Harris, but I do not think that's a core belief of Andy Harris. Mm-hmm. This concept of working together, and it doesn't matter where the idea comes from.
Yeah. Well, that puts it in right there. It really does.
I think it does. I mean, on individual specific issues, there's plenty to talk about there. The Chesapeake Bay, the issue of how to create jobs, and those are all very important. I mean, those are the issues. But basically, it's also a matter of the person who's sitting here. Who is the person that you're kind of going to entrust your representation to when that person goes to Washington? What's he going to do on your behalf? Mm-hmm. And is he going to look for ways to make it work, or is he going to try to make partisan points?
Be part of the solution instead of part of the problem.
Yeah.
I guess what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And there are solutions out there, and somehow or other we need some of them pretty quick. Like just one thing which I keep focusing on, keep hearing about, Social Security, and I think in 2017, 2018, and that's not very many years from now.
No, it isn't.
3, 4, 5 years from now. There's not enough money coming into Social Security to write the checks that we all expect to get, and something needs to be done. And there's the Social Security trust funds, but there isn't any cash in those trust funds because both parties, I will say, took that cash and lent it to the government, and as a result, the cash is gone. The Social Security trust funds just have bonds in there, so there's no cash in the trust funds. So that's a good example of something that will be fixed in the next 3 years.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to get together and knock heads and make it happen.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but I do expect cash to come in my Social Security
I
check.
do too.
Not bonds.
I do, and not an IOU.
An IOU.
So, and by the way, that's a good example. How did we get into this situation? Both parties went along with this kind of sleight of hand. It's probably not fair to say sleight of hand, but both parties went along with this business of taking the cash that we all paid in to Social Security and using it to run the government. So it's crazy that we let that happen, but now the chickens are coming home to roost, and within the next 3 years, we need something to fix it.
Yeah. Bill, this is probably a side. I should ask this earlier. Tell us a little bit about your family. Are they all over the country now?
Family, I married in 1969, I remember. 5 days later, I was drafted into the Army.
Oh,
I had the shortest honeymoon and the most nervous honeymoon when you're about to go off to basic training. So I married Juliette is my wife's name. She's a French American now. We have two children who are grown at this point. One lives in the Washington area, and one lives in Europe, Western Europe. And
so neither one of them can vote for you.
neither one of them can vote for me.
I hope you can count on your wife, though.
I think
Yeah.
I'm counting on my wife. Right,
Yeah.
I got at least that one vote. Yeah, so very happy with my family and very happy with my wonderful wife, Juliette.
Yeah, good. Well, in the 3 minutes we have left, I want you to pretend that camera up there is a door, and you're knocking on
Okay.
the door and introducing yourself and saying whatever you want to say to the potential voter.
Good afternoon, Mr. or Ms. Potential Voter. This is Bill Tilghman, running for the 1st District, U.S. Congress, and I am very happy to give you a little idea of what I stand for. But basically, you would be voting on me as a person, first of all, and I'm a person very interested in compromise and very interested in dialogue. And I think that's probably the most important thing that we need from our Congress today is a commitment to dialogue. I have a long time personal and family commitment to the Eastern Shore, to the 1st District, so I'm very interested in our Bay and keeping the progress going there, and I'm very interested in working with the 1st District to create jobs. And I think that those are probably the two most important issues that I would focus on in my first term in Congress. So to summarize, it's a willingness to work with the other side, and it's a commitment to really represent the interests of the 1st District, and in particular to keep my eye on those two issues, the Bay and jobs.
Bill Tilghman, thank you so much for coming down here today from your home in Kent County, I guess it is, or Queen Anne's. It's Queen Anne's County.
Yes, Queen Anne's.
That's right. Yeah, and we appreciate your taking your time to be with us and introduce yourself to us. This signal goes to 33,000 homes in Wicomico County. So you multiply that by the 3.2 people who live there, but anywhere where the Comcast cable goes.
Good.
The public access television goes. So
thank you for inviting me, Phil.
well, it's a pleasure, and I like the way you spell your last name.
GH.
And thank you for being with us here on Pack 14.